going to be very laid back today, almost by design. One, because it's a Friday and it's been a busy week. We'll talk about that week in just a few minutes and what maybe the week in the life of a mayor. I'll just run down the stops, the meetings, and then just kind of the life of putting yourself out there like this. I'll share it with you here in just a little bit. On one day, it's illegal to pay somebody to vote. But on the next day, being election day, it's legal to pay somebody to canvass. Even though they don't canvass, even though they don't go to a house, they hop on a bus, they go down, they vote, they come back, and they cash a $75 check. So the day before, it's illegal. The next day, completely legal, or at least enough gray area.
I think a lot of what that is they pay somebody $75 to go find 5 friends to take to the poll. Hey, here's $75. I want you to go over there.
As long as you bring 5 friends that get a $75 check as well, Jack, you're exactly right. So gray that they don't even go after it to prosecute. Not this ethics guy I just talked about. I handed over the 65 $75 checks, fanned out on the table, cashed at the same liquor store, deposited at the same thing. I don't know what else to say. Yeah, well, it was illegal yesterday, but today's election day, so it's called canvassing, and they can pay. They brought 5 friends. They hopped on a bus.
It's like ballot harvesting. On the right, we say, well, that can't be fair because it's you don't know where those ballots came from. But on the left, it's like, oh, well, what's wrong with it? As long as people get the vote, we need to get these votes in. Hey, getting these votes in is important. And I'm like, no, it's not.
And if you oppose it, Jack, you're suppressing.
I don't care. I am suppressing those votes because they're not. I am blatantly coming out right now saying I think we should suppress the vote. I think suppressing the vote needs to be done because a lot of people who aren't allowed to vote are voting because we're making it too easy.
Jack has long thought that you should have to test the front door.
I think voting should be hard. I don't think it should be this easy. And I don't care if you think anything negative about me because I'm an old man and I'm going to die in the near future. So it doesn't matter what you think of me.
Yeah. Colonel, I have a political comment for the day. Okay, if you want to go to a Trump rally or go shopping or go out to eat or go to a ball game, you can't because you could spread the virus. But we'll welcome in tens of thousands of migrants in one big group, unchecked, from disease-ridden nations. Is this correct?
Colonel, I'm going to give you the 2 hot spots, and they actually call it the hot spots of the globe. It's Arizona and California.
Gee, I wonder why that is.
Well, I'm going to ask, what do they have in common? Large, massive, unchecked migrant populations.
And based on my work in the intelligence community for 14 years, including the national level, and my training in biochemical warfare, because I was a battalion biochemical warfare officer, this thing was engineered. This was not natural.
Agreed. Colonel, thank you.
I'll leave you with that.
No discussion. Very little at all, excuse me. Hitting the floor and symbolically impeaching him all over again in the House. Of course, it'll go nowhere. But from one discussion midweek last week by somebody who's a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat to this craziness that they're now talking about today. The man's out in a matter of, what, 8 days? Am I correct? Yes. Packing his bag, and now every speech sounds just like that, concession, and it'll be a peaceful transition, and we'll take him at his word. But to do the dog and pony show that they're going to try and do today, and I think and if you catch some of the talking heads, Pelosi and the rest of them, they're in a big hurry to do it. I think that's a massive mistake, and that's me inside myself saying it. That's me stepping outside myself and saying it wrong, and wrong again on about 50 fronts. If you can't see that, then you're not that big person that can. And then another bunch of preachers condemning it. I expect forgiveness from them first and foremost. So let's go. Let's move on. Put the blinders on. Look forward. Look forward to what you think the country will look like, and you're not whatever they're about to do. I don't get it.
And so
that is why the Democrat Party doesn't have any quality people. They do not. They do not have one quality person in the Democratic Party. They're all either trolls or scumbags, like this Ossoff character. He is horrible. I don't know how he got elected.
So not true. There's not true. The ones that seem to lead or be the most visible are the most bizarre. Absolutely. But there are some solid people standing over there. I don't know why
they're not in leadership positions.
Correct.
The fact is that happens in every election. Now, they don't go by the number of dead people who voted. They go by, did this sway the election left or right? Did it do one way or the other?
They walked away from what was an obvious
That's why whenever you hear a news report, they say there's no evidence of they don't say there's no evidence of election fraud. They say there's no evidence of widespread, that's the word, that's the key word, widespread election fraud, which actually there is.
And to both of you opposed, the only prosecution of any fraud whatsoever has been out of Texas. Am I correct? That one lady who
got a slap on the wrist.
Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of ballots.
And she'll get a slap on the wrist and a reduced sentence at some point. So what's really even worse about it is the judges. Judges do not want. They do not want these cases coming before them. That's why it didn't go to the Supreme Court. That's why it keeps getting thrown out. They say, "Oh, they don't even want to look at the evidence," and that's what's so sad about it. They don't want to look at the evidence. No, I don't even want to start on there. We're not going to go there.
Yep, because we had the same thing in Brooks County in 2010 when they had the voter fraud.
Yeah, I remember when that happened.
The judges kept throwing it out, or they actually kept causing mistrial.
They call it mistrial or recusing themselves. So what they do, they recuse themselves. They have to get another judge. Oh, I don't want to look at this case. That's basically what they're saying is, I don't want to be involved in this case. Why? I don't know.
Makes the whole election dubious, and you throw in the machines too, so. Anyhow, that was something that's been bothering me, I'm just, somebody needs to be accountable, and they finds a judge with kahunas to put some people in jail for it.
All right, thanks, Colin.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I was saying before we got the screen throws is I've calmed down a lot now, but I was very, 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 very upset at the mayor because of his comment.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I was saying before we got the screen throws is I've calmed down a lot now, but I was very, 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 very upset at the mayor because of his comments about canvassing. That was a historical moment. And the college students that I had with me were very aware. I made sure I sat them down to give them the importance of why it was necessary for us to do what we're doing. And I had students from all walks of life. I was so proud of them because they were adamant about doing what they did. Two of my daughters were there.
You guys basically went out on vans and were getting people to the polls.
Yes. We actually did it for 8 hours a day. So it wasn't just a couple of hours. We actually went out 8 hours a day, and they gave up a lot of time. They made a lot of money. And their sole purpose was to go door to door. There were 30,000 registered Democrats that had never voted. And so we targeted that voter base. Well, guess what? The Republican Party did the same thing. They targeted their Republican voter base. Nothing that we did was any different than they did. How the mayor was able to stand before an audience of people and say that we paid, where he got this figure from, I don't know. We paid $75 to a person to vote. And then he takes the story and gives it some wings and says that he went out and bought 5 more people back. And they got paid $75 to vote. And he said he saw a man that had $75 checks turned face down on a table. Where did he see this at? In what planet did that occur? Who did that? Because I know all the different groups that were canvassing, but the week in which he's speaking of, there were only 2 groups out there, and that was myself and Omega Calhoun that were out canvassing, and neither of our groups did any of what he stated. So we're very, we're just, when I talked to Brother Calhoun on the phone, he was upset, and and the mayor has placed himself in a position where he could actually be sued, for those type of comments. They were outlandish. Those were criminal comments, as a matter of fact.
Well, he suggested, right, that people were bordering on criminal activity.
Yes.
He literally says that nobody looks into it. It's such a gray area that they don't even prosecute and all this kind of thing.
So for anybody that he should be speaking to, he should make every effort to sit down and speak with me to, maybe clear this thing up a little bit. If it was the other way around, he'd want it done. I've tried to contact him about retracting the statement that NAACP was lined up with him with Antonio Smith, and he's refused to get back with me.
Okay.
So,
can I ask a question about it? And it probably, and you don't want to answer it, it's fine, because I don't want to put you on the spot. But to me, all of that is a manifestation of white superiority.
Yes, it is. Without a doubt, it is.
Okay, I just want, what I'm saying, because when most white folks think of white superiority, white supremacy, right, it's about the Klan or now the Boogaloo Boys or the Proud Boys. But I think this is a really, can we just sit with this spot for just a second? To me, this is how it works in everyday in institutions with upstanding church-going white folks. Does that make sense? And you think that's a fair critique?
I think it's a very fair critique, because I believe that he feels that I'm beneath him and he doesn't have to answer to me. I pose no threat to him. Certainly he feels that I can't increase his income in any way possible. And, I even have to go as far as to say that the way he's dealt with the entire situation speaks highly of his character in a very negative way. I believe that when you look at the situation and the way he's laid it out, it kind of spells out the fact that he feels superior in some way. A very smug individual, and he's very confident nothing's going to happen to him.
And I'm, because I take the position, those of us who've been kind of raised, socialized as white, myself included at times, right? We've kind of got this disease of we know better, right? Or we don't have to answer to, or we don't, or we simply don't know how, we don't have to know about other people. Even if we're in charge of providing services or representing them as an elected official, so it to me, because I've manifested male, superiority in relation to women at times. And so I don't want to sound like I'm beating up on him, because I think at times it's conscious in us and sometimes it's just unconscious. But I guess for me, when people are looking for examples of systematic white male supremacy in this case, right, this is such a really good example of how it works to me. That some of us don't even have to think or ponder that, even when all these folks are telling me and I'm getting, messages from people who don't look like me that I've done something that has affected them, that I'm going to put up the wall, and I'm not even going to get curious about what the hell they're talking about.
Exactly. It's something that I think America has to address in order for us to get better, in order for us to heal as a nation. We're the laughing stock of other countries. Many other countries look at us right now and they consider us no longer a threat, no longer a superpower. They look at us and think that there's disunity, disharmony among our nation, even in the midst of our government. And the local governments are just as important as the national government and the state level government. What happens to this city we're a reflection of him. If he doesn't reflect unity, neither will the community. He's got to be the chief. He's a spokesperson for that. He's a spokesperson for the city. He's a spokesperson for the city council, as a matter of fact. It's his job to encourage the council to stand together and to fight for all people. If he is not the first person that does it, then who will? He's got to be it's almost like being a pastor of a church. I have to be the first to partake of all that I preach and teach. And if I'm not, then I'm ineffective as a pastor.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on kind of the ethics process itself? Because I know I and others of concerned clergy have been a little concerned about the fact that, it's kind of and this is one of the criticisms of internal, investigations in police departments, true, like that if there's an accusation that something's gone wrong and the thing that you've made that accusation against gets to investigate its own behavior, there's always this doubt that you're going to have an authentic process where folks are held accountable. And in fact, I shared this with a city council person a couple of days ago. I've been, and it's been a long time since I've been before city council, but I really don't see the point anymore because it's kind of ritualistic. You have to get approval to talk to them, right? And then once they say it's okay for you to talk to them, you've got 3 minutes to lay out the case, and sometimes it's a complicated case that takes more than 3 minutes. But then they don't actually have to even respond, and they don't respond publicly, right? And I don't say this to fault any individuals, but it seems to me if we want accountable governments and transparent governments, right, local all the way up, that's a problematic process, as well as when I contacted Mark Barber initially about filing a complaint against the mayor, he kind of basically said we don't really have a complaint process, and so then he sends me the ethics stuff where the mayor actually gets to pick one of the people, and I'm fine with that. But are you okay with their process and kind of the structure of it, or what do you think?
I'm totally disturbed by their process. Their process serves as a slap on the wrist committee if you had to ask me about it. And I believe that this particular issue is going to wind up finding itself in a courtroom somewhere, simply because the way this process is set up, they get to choose the people who review them, and the accused is getting to choose the person that will be a part of the committee that will review him. Well, he's a Republican, and the person that the mayor has chosen is a Republican. He's a city official, and the person that the mayor has chosen is a city official. So he's chosen a comrade, someone that he has a great familiarity with, someone who supports him, someone who supports his leadership. I don't see the person that he supports being unbiased. So I'm very disturbed at the process. As a matter of fact, I would even probably, challenge the city council to maybe look at such action and ask the mayor to remove himself from the selection process and maybe pass that on to the mayor pro tem.
Yeah, it seems to me that the person that's in trouble should recuse themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Versus, but I could see that some people making the argument that they get to choose a person. I don't know, but it's so strange. I mean, I don't know about you, but I think. Do you have any? Before I tell you what I think, like, what do you think will happen now that they've still got to pick the third person? But once that committee of three is, they'll look at the complaint we submitted. I hope they listen. We don't even know what they're going to do. Will they listen to the audio or not? Will they ask for more evidence? Can we submit more evidence? Because it doesn't sound like any of that will happen unless they think it's a warranted complaint.
Well, I made a comment a while back, and I won't use the name, but and I didn't address this issue. I made a comment about the mayor, the city manager, and the city officials' view on civil rights agencies. It was said to them in the past, not necessarily concerning this complaint, that the civil rights agencies didn't pose a threat to them. And that comment was made about a year ago. And I was privileged to the results of that conversation. So it's a very factual statement. And so for probably the past year and a half, 2 years, they've never really honored our complaints because they felt they didn't have to, that we posed no threat. Well, the problem with that was not that we didn't pose a threat, but because the agency was in a revamping and stage, and each time that these problems came up, we were still in a rebuilding process, and our charters and paperwork were not necessarily had been completed, but we are now fully.
Folks are working other jobs too. This isn't what people do full time, right? But
you're talking to an individual here who's a retired individual who has nothing but all day and night to research books. I would very much like to go to law school. I did pretty much 3 years worth of work on the Black Contractors Fight, pretty much any work that any attorney could have done, and very versed in those areas. And I really would like to go to law school, and that's going to be my aim in the next couple of years or so. But you're looking at the bird dog, you're looking at a bloodhound, a pit bull of some sorts, that when these things happen, I don't give up on it. And now that we are a fully functioning agency that has all the rights and responsibilities of every other chapter of the NAACP in every state, we're full steam ahead. And we won't let this go until something's been done about it. So if you didn't think that we were a threat before, and I shouldn't even use the word threat, you don't feel that we are serious about pushing this through, then you're wrong, because we're going to push this thing until there's an end result that's satisfying to the people.
Yeah. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to talk about?
Well, I guess a recap of this podcast, I think many are going to watch the podcast and they're going to be split down the middle on what they think this podcast is about. And I'd like to kind of touch on something you and I talked about in the past, and that is healing this city. There comes a time when no matter what you've done wrong, no matter who's done it wrong, I think, and this is going to probably get me in some trouble, but I really have to be honest. I think both sides, there's a major disenfranchisement towards African Americans, not just in the United States, not just in the state of Georgia, but inside this city. But there's also I shouldn't say an equal, but there's also disparity created in retaliation in return. There has to be a point in which we finally decide that we're all going to get along. Somebody must be the starting point for unity. And as Christians, you and I and the rest of the pastoral coalition, the concerned clergy, the other agencies that are involved, will be the beginning of that healing process. We must be that rolling stone that takes flight and go downhill, and the gravity will let everything else attach. And we must be the leaders of that healing process that must occur. I am very happy that we do not have many of the problems that other cities do have. We could be so much worse. This could be a Ferguson. This could be an Atlanta situation. This could be a Minnesota situation, but it's not. And we're going to have to learn to put some things behind us. We're going to have to learn to heal some of the past and deal with them. And we're going to have to be truthful about what's going on. I believe at the centerpiece of all of this is the love of money. You know, money, money, money. And it's about time we decide that we're going to heal as a community. This community is not made up of just white people. It's not made up of just black people. It's
Matheson's black group describes themselves as a coalition of community organizations. We have completed our discussion of the complaints allegations in detail. The chair now asks if further comments of discussion is needed.
It is after that that is the provision of the Constitution that back the Article of the Assembly. This ordinance is structured and uses the same language as the U.S. Constitution and hundreds of thousands, if not billions, of laws, statutes, and ordinances in an English-speaking market. We as a body must find a violation of some prohibited act which is not alleged in the complaint. For that reason, I think that is sufficient reason to dismiss the complaint. The second reason is, even assuming that the facts alleged in the complaint, that is the conduct of the mayor, is true. In other words, we really believe that I believe that he said what it is alleged he said, and in doing it, he remained silent when somebody else said something. Even if he really did that, I don't think that's a violation of this code of ethics, because I think that conduct is protected political speech under the United States Constitution, the Constitution of the State of Georgia. He expressed a political opinion that I believe is protected. What we have here is talk radio. You know, it used to be radio had to, was a volatile stop. That is, if they get a political opinion, someone on radio stated a political opinion, there was an obligation to the federal government, the SEC, that the balancing or contrary or other opinion be given also. Parenting stop. In the late 80s, Congress, after the FCC, repealed the parenting stop. This is what spawned talk radio. This is where Rush Limbaugh and Howard Stern and hundreds of others, Tom Warner, all were able to get on the radio and give their opinion without having to give any contrary or other opposing opinion. Congress decided, after what happened to the people of the United States, that this is one way that we have a robust political debate, that we have open and fair discussion of all political views. And they're all forms of political talk radio. There's Democrat, there's Republican, there's libertarian, there's progressive. All over this country, there are people participating in this radio. Most of them have call-ins that gives the citizens an opportunity to express their opinion. This has seemed to have been good. This was seen to have been helpful through our democratic process. So my concern is what the mayor and the committee have done is participating in the process. If there are others that disagree, the remedy is not to contend that he violated code of ethics. I'm concerned that the code of ethics is being used to overrule the choice of the people. In the city of Alabama, the mayor was elected for a definite term. The charter does not provide impeachment or recall. There's an expression of the people of our city that he served his whole term. And I don't think that this board of ethics should construe these facts in this ordinance as offsetting that or overruling that. Just at the time, there are other city officials, you know, the city functions based on there's 17 or 18 boards, commissions, and authorities, the airport, hospital, tree commission, planning commission. The city appoints, I don't know, some 3 people, each one of them on these boards. And it's time consuming and it's stressful. These are important decisions being made on these boards. I'm concerned that people who are serving now or people who might be serving later, I don't want them to be concerned about if they step forward and serve their city. There's going to be some reading about it. They have to be careful about what they say in public. They have to be careful about what they say in city club meetings or just on the street corner or anywhere else. Because just because this is talk radio doesn't mean that this code will be limited to talk radio. There's no point in having our people serve the city concerned about giving up their constitutional rights to free speech to step forward and serve the city. Sometimes it's hard enough in the city to get people served. Well, it's going to put a layer of concern on in their mind. Well, I'll have to be careful what I say if I go down there and serve on this board, that authority. So for this reason, and this second reason alone, I believe this complaint should be dismissed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Jefferson. Thank you, sir, as chair of the ethics board. Appreciate your work. We are considering the complaint filed against Mayor Matheson based upon the ordinance that we have referred to. Part of the ordinance is on the board coming in there. The scope and purpose of this ethics board is to take a written complaint filed by the complainants and to assess whether those allegations violate the code. To do that, we take out the code. Ordinance number 2014-2013. In the code, it has several different sections of the code. The preamble references the purpose of establishing an ethics code for the city officials. It gives a section for definitions to define the various terms that are referred to in the code. This is similar to any state or federal law that we all are subject to. The code states the general purpose of establishing this document, which is encouraging high standards of conduct, requiring disclosure, private, financial, or other interests that might affect the city officials' conduct, and serves as a basis for discipline those who refuse to abide by the terms. The ordinance has in section 3 a section dealing with prohibitions, and it outlines a large number of items that a city official cannot do. So we disciplinary action by this board. The complaint alleged against the mayor is sets forth a number of comments, and we accept those as to be made in public and not subject to the debate. Those said by the mayor. The complaint alleges, in a nutshell, that he is in violation of the ordinance because of political speech, and that, as referenced in the complaint, he made comments that were divisive and they were conservative and they did not serve all of the constituents. So the complaint objects to his political speech. So in looking at the complaint, we also look to see if it alleges things that are prohibited by the ordinance. The complaint does not allege that Mayor Matheson uses office to enrich himself. It does not allege he used his authority as mayor for improper influence, or that he voted in some matter in which he had an interest in the outcome. It does not allege he violated the law. It does not allege that the mayor acted in a way to violate any activity prohibited by the ordinance. It does not allege that he failed to disclose a conflict of interest on a vote or a matter being considered by mayor and council. ordinance does not prevent anyone from free expression of thought or opinion. The ordinance does not reference or censure political speech or opinions based on some political position or not. That applies to mayor or council. So in short, the idea that this ordinance is designed to censure political speech is not found in the ordinance. The broader concept of this, as mentioned earlier, is that we do have in this country, we're governed by laws, we're governed by written laws, we're governed by written ordinance we've been asked to consider. We're not governed by opinion laws, we're governed by those passed laws. We all know the history of our country, which is that we have embodied in our law free expression of thought and opinion, and it's protected in our law. It's protected in our foundational documents. We all know what the First Amendment says. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution enshrines this principle: that Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or the press. We certainly didn't want to call it ethics, wanting to deal with religion, the exercise of religion, just like we do not want to deal with the free exercise of speech or the press. The Georgia Constitution also enshrines this doctrine in Article 1, Section 1, Paragraph 5. That no law shall be passed to curtail or restrain the freedom of speech or of the press. Every person may speak, write, and publish sentiments on all subjects, but shall be responsible for the use of that liberty. We are all equally charged under these constitutional documents to respect these individual rights of all of us, including all four of the groups of the complainants. These allow each person to strive to achieve what he or she wishes without abusing others. Of course, the existence of the right also provides the same benefits to all of us. And I recognize the right of the complainants, anyone similarly situated that disagrees with the mayor's political speech, to express that opinion freely, without restraint and without censure. That is, after all, one of the tenets of our country, enshrined in these foundational documents. The ordinance, in my opinion, does not punish or censure political speech. Now, is it wise? Is it something that you should have done? Is it something that you don't like? Is it something you have a different opinion? Obviously, those are things that you should voice in a proper form. You have open debate.
We're not going to be taking any comments. None whatsoever.
The duties of city board are limited, and we are charged.
I would appreciate if you all would hold it down.
Mr. Dixon has to be in conversation with
I apologize once again if you, this is not open for comment. You feel you really need to, but I'm not asked to leave. Please don't.
The announcement of ordinance of political speech is not part of the duties of this ethics board. Mr. Chairman, after evaluating the complaint as alleged, and after considering the fact that political speech is not part of the prohibited conduct, I think that the motion is properly made. I would like to give a short story about Fred Douglass before you leave. Frederick Douglass His event was canceled. I remember at that time. Because they didn't want to hear what Frederick Douglass. You know what Frederick Douglass said? I quote, "Liberty is meaningless where the right to utter one's thoughts and opinions has ceased to exist." Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I do believe that the plaintiff, the mayor, fails to state sufficient facts and know the jurisdiction of the council. And I'll give it to Clerk Hill.
Thank you, sir.
Sir.
I understand, we discussed this at length. I understand what I understand and can appreciate what each of you have stated. I just see it a little different. What I look at is, and each of you stated, there's no portion of this. I agree with what you said about that. I looked at the entire document, and on the front page, I tried to consider where it says, in the whereas, it is essential to the proper operation of the democratic government that the public officials be and give the appearance of being independent, impartial, and responsible to the people. Secondly, all elected officials of the city of Matheson should conduct themselves so as to not create any question or concern of the inappropriateness of sincerity of any action or conduct of a member of the governing authority. And whereas such measures are necessary to provide the public with confidence in the integrity of the government. And I feel what the mayor did was speaking on his radio show was okay as long as he did say, as the mayor. I hold the mayor, I hold our elected officials at a higher standard. And I think we all should expect more. Freedom of speech, sure. He can say what he wants to. But when you put that tag and that tail on it that says, as the mayor, that's where it becomes an issue. Properly says, and therefore, in this policy, it's all in the ordinance. Properly, therefore, the policy of the city is that the officials, employees, and volunteers conduct official business. And when one say, as the mayor, it gives an appearance that it was conducting official business. We need to be independent, impartial, and responsible. We need to treat all people fairly. Some of the comments that was made was not treating all the people fairly. It was only some, a select group, use of power for their position, for the well-being of their constituents. All of them. I feel once you're in that office, you speak for all of you. You have your opinion, and you can voice that in certain situations, but once you put that tag on it as the mayor, you're all of our mayor. You're not also the mayor, so you should be speaking for all of us. And if you have to curtail some of your speech, well then, that's what you should do. You need to create an environment of honesty, openness, and integrity. I feel that failed when you put that tag on the headline of that and speaking as the mayor. There was an oath that was taken. When all of you elected in office, you operated at the desk and interested in the welfare of the city without fear, favor, or fear of favor. I feel that was valid. The comments about individuals not canvassing the area for votes, but if they take the money they're receiving from going out to canvass and they go to the liquor store and cash the check, I fail to see should concern all of us. I just feel, I feel that there has been a loss of trust. Now, is that loss of trust is something that I feel we should overwear our office because of? No. But I do feel that there's behavior that needs to be changed.
And if that have been,
No, that's all I have.
Councilor, may I please, Dr. Matheson,
No.
Judge Tullison,
No,
Richard Shelton, I just want to say one thing.
Excuse me, no, I said several times, would you please help me here? He can't report himself, but no, you were wrong. We did not. I said, we are discussion of complaints, allegations in detail. Here, there is one more conversation today. I do have any about this. That is what I can say. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of the vote put forth by thank you, is that this complaint be dismissed because it fails to state facts sufficient to revoke the disciplinary jurisdiction of Marion County. All those in favor, please indicate so by raising your hand. Aye. Therefore, we will vote 2-1. The complaint brought forward by the Coalition of Community Organizations against Mayor Scott is hereby dismissed. We will notify the complainant, Mayor Matheson, and the council in writing of our publicity. Call for this ends this. Call for
about the type of meeting this was? Was this not a public hearing meeting? And I would like to ask the attorney, what's the definition of a public hearing meeting? I can't understand why you're, transparency is all we asking for. Concerned citizen and taxpayer.
or stay on record that have this been filed before, as a complaint, have the code negative been used before? That's a question that you have to answer
I'm
shortly.
concerned with the procedure of the meeting.
Mr. Tappan, that you all know this
This was not a public hearing meeting, and I'm going to see what I can do about that. This was not a public hearing meeting as it was presented to me.
Councilman Thurston, can you say why you think this was not a public meeting?
I want you to give us a definition of a public hearing meeting. Wow, I'm acting as a citizen.
Right.
I am speaking as a citizen.
Right, and he just said you can do that, right?
That's all I'm speaking. I want to know the procedure of a meeting as a taxpayer and a citizen. That's all I ask.
And y'all get the moral heart.
What you think about
It was rigged,
Whereas,
and this is a public hearing, and this is a rigged hearing. They know it was rigged. This is what they always have done. It's what they always do in this place.
You think to put another cloud over us?
Oh, yes, they do. But there's a cloud that the sunlight can overshadow. You know, we gonna stand the right. rise like the sun in the south, and how Mediterranean be the community and the glory today. So we're going to stand for justice and equality by the law.
Thank you very much.
How do you feel right now with this decision?
I'm very relieved. This is no fun for anybody. The entire council and we love this behind us, so we can get on with the operation of the city. It's been exhausting. So I'm glad for the ruling. I would have loved 3-0, but I'm very glad for the ruling. Glad it's behind us. They'll bring it before council within 7 days, so that should be the next Thursday's council meeting. It's a standalone council meeting with no work session, so at that meeting they'll bring it before the council chooses to accept it, and it's over. It's truly over.
And do you think there was a lesson to be learned here?
I listened to everybody. I talked with everybody. I'm sorry if the difference of opinion rated them going this far, but of course, I listen to Mr. Jefferson as well very closely. Yes.
So what do you have to say to the community who's still upset?
Come see me. We'll work together. We'll solve whatever actual problems, not the problems with me, an individual's problem with me, but we'll solve whatever actual problems they see in the community.
One of the things that the chairman said is that he believes that there is some behavior that needs to change. What is your response to any change of behavior on your behalf?
None. He also said I should be open, so obviously that was a contradiction. So that's what I heard.
Mayor, do you think that this is one more straw to help divide the city? Do you think this is one more straw to help divide the city?
No, I do not. I'm sorry this group sees it that way, but again, I think, George, you know what side of town I'm working on right now. You know what side of town the need is on in this town for revitalization and otherwise, so that's where all my focus is.
That was just a question. Thank you very much.
Yep, thank you.
So, I guess right now what you're looking at is, you're looking at a lot of hurt in the community right now. As you can see, a lot of people left. So, what do you see as a solution to this?
Just keep feeding and keep talking. Mr. Robinson, Mr. Rhines, I've talked with them many times over. We still got some stuff to work out, but they're both fantastic gentlemen involved in this community, and if we all keep talking, then we're probably going to get somewhere in common ground pretty soon. Any other questions?
Is there anything else that you have to add?
No, I'm going to go sit and exhale. That was
How does it feel to have this family support?
No family was here. My kids in school, my wife at work, but yeah, it was nice to have friends support me. Yes, it felt good. I thought I was going to be sitting alone after you. Yes. Thank you all.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mayor. Once again, to get to the free press, we just want to keep you informed. That's the best we can do today. Memlon, Wade, Charles, Wilcox, Dennis, Elliott, Woods. Appreciate you all tuning in. You care. And sometimes just caring makes a difference. Personally, my opinion, as a citizen, I don't think it was fair. And I think that this is traditional for Valdosta. It ain't much more going to change, but maybe one day we'll all come together and we can say we have one Valdosta. I hate what I saw today, I really did. And mainly because Jefferson, in my opinion, he did exactly what I expected him to do. And that is to come down the center. And of course, it made no difference anyway. You have anything you want to say? What's your name?
John Robbins. And very disappointing, very disturbing to witness something that I just witnessed today, or something that's big, something that was really done. And that's been the political power here for years and years. One day it's going to end. It's going to topple sooner or later.
So you're saying one day what they used to call in Al Parsons, that one day good old boy system gonna crumble one day?
It's going to crumble.
Right? You really believe that?
Oh, I know it. I don't believe it, I know it is. I know it for a fact, but we don't see to it crumbling.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, to get to Free Press, we report what others ignore. Bye-bye, we're gone.
Get up, Nine. Did you think we was gonna stay down forever? A new day. 19-9 Shepherd. Beware, mama that killed. For 443 goddamn damnable years. The cop is just laid strict. I see evil's gathered everywhere. Evil still be gathered. Come on. Don't stop.